Hey folks, Dave Brown back here with the New Populist. Thank you again for joining me. I want to talk today about the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, because he has gotten a very raw deal. Here in the United States, we know that the deep state is trying to get rid of Trump. He has 91 indictments. He has several civil lawsuits, and they're trying like heck to put him in jail to make him unelectable. And Trump has the benefit of a very large and vigorous base of support. And he also has the benefit of being in a country that, while we're slipping, we're certainly not what we used to be. We still are marginally better than some of the other third world or developing countries around us when it comes to our legal system. But again, that's marginal, and at this point, I mean, is it that much better? I don't know. But Trump is hanging on. He looks like he will get the Republican nomination and running the general. But Imran Khan in Pakistan, he is completely screwed, and he is going to be spending the next several years in jail along with his wife. And it's not just his opponents within Pakistan that want him out of the way. There is also an element of U.S. involvement, and as a U.S. citizen, that is what interests me, because I am against my country meddling in the affairs of other countries, something that we claim to hate because, after all, we were so upset that Putin interfered allegedly in our democracy in 2016, and we spent years demonizing Putin for his authoritarianism, for his involvement in our internal processes. Yet we do that to other countries on a daily basis at a scale much larger than anything Putin could even dream of. But to understand the case of Imran Khan, we really have to go back to February of 2022. And I want to walk through this because you need to see all the components to see what really happened to him. And I'll be able to show you that this accusation that the United States was involved is not, BS. It's founded in reality, despite what many in the mainstream media are claiming. They're claiming, oh, we had nothing to do with this, we weren't involved at all, but we were, and I'm going to prove that and walk you through it all. So back in February of 2020, he made a mistake, Imran Khan. He went to visit Putin right when the Russians were invading Ukraine. And of course, after they invaded the West, the United States, and Europe, we were trying to isolate Russia, sanction them, and cause a collapse of the Putin regime. And anybody who is friendly to Putin then became our enemy. And so he made that mistake. He went to Moscow during the invasion. Now, he claims that he wasn't aware that was going to happen, but we don't care. He's over there schmoozing with Putin right when the Russians are rolling across the border, and he went on our bleep list. And we did not want him in office in Pakistan. And why do we know this? Well, The Intercept got hold of a diplomatic cable from Pakistan that was sent back from the United States in Washington to Pakistan, describing a meeting between the Pakistani ambassador and members of the U.S. State Department. Now, here's what the cable said, and this is from the perspective of the Pakistani ambassador. At the outset, Don, which is a member of the U.S. State Department, referred to Pakistan's position on the Ukraine crisis and said that people here and in Europe are quite concerned about why Pakistan is taking such an aggressively neutral position on Ukraine, if such a position is even possible. It does not seem such a neutral stand to us. He shared that in his discussions with the NSC, it seems quite clear that this is the Prime Minister's policy. I asked Don if the reason for a strong U.S. reaction was Pakistan's abstention in the voting in the UNGA, which is the UN General Assembly. He categorically replied in the negative and said that it was due to the Prime Minister's visit to Moscow. He said, "I think if the no confidence vote against the Prime Minister succeeds, all will be forgiven in Washington because the Russia visit is being looked at as a decision by the Prime Minister. Otherwise, I think it will be tough going ahead." He paused and then said, "I cannot tell how this will be seen by Europe, but I suspect their reaction will be similar." He then said that honestly, I think isolation of the Prime Minister will become very strong from Europe and the United States. Now, what is the Don from the State Department saying here? He's saying, if you don't get rid of this guy, Europe and the United States, we're going to come down on you. We're going to make it hard for you. So you guys need to get rid of him because there were no confidence votes scheduled for Imran Khan in Pakistan. And they said, get rid of the guy and we're good. If not, we're going to have a problem. And they mentioned the UN General Assembly vote. Pakistan was one of the people who abstained in a resolution that condemned the Russian aggression against Ukraine. So the Pakistani ambassador thought that that was why the United States was unhappy with Pakistan. But according to this cable, it was because Imran Khan had went to Moscow and visited Putin. So that is why they were upset. So this is February, the meeting between Khan and Putin. This cable was from March of 2022. And then in April, there in fact was a no confidence vote, and Imran Khan was ousted from power. Now, after this happened, he immediately became the subject of tons of investigations. He was charged with the improper handling of state gifts. He was actually charged with terrorism because he gave speeches, fiery speeches, where he went after members of the judiciary. And matter of fact, in November of 2022, he was actually shot. He was actually the victim of an assassination attempt. Here it is on video right now. You hear the gunshots. You hear the music. Let me turn down a little bit. And you can see Imran Khan being passed out to the car here. Right about, where is he at? He's going to pop out in a second. They grab him and shuffle him into the car. There he is, right there. So November 2022, we have this assassination attempt of Imran Khan. And luckily, he did survive, and he was just injured, shot in the leg. Now let's jump ahead to August 2023. He is convicted in one of his gifts case, because there's actually more than one, and given a 3-year sentence in jail. And that was just the beginning. 3 years there. But later he would be charged with divulging state secrets. And that would actually lead to another sentence in the future. But before we go there, I want to play a clip from June 2023 of Imran Khan talking about what happened with the cable and his ambassador in Washington, because him talking about it with the Atlantic Council, which is a think tank here in the United States, this set him up for the charge that he was eventually convicted of, which is exposing state secrets. So here is with him talking about the U.S. involvement in his ouster in 2022.
Well, let's start with that. Let's start with the big picture and go to let's time travel back to April 2021 when all of this started, and begin with the so-called American connection with your ouster. A lot of people are interested, at least in this neck of the woods, about whether it was short-sighted of you to blame the US, target the Americans after your ouster, considering how you and your party are now hoping for their support. The State Department has just recently called you a private citizen and said that it's not going to comment on your status. I see you smiling, interestingly, but do you think it was short-sighted to really tick off the Americans, considering where you stand now regarding their support?
Well, let's just break it up. First of all, the facts. What happened? I get a cipher. Cipher is this coded message from my ambassador in Washington. He sends me this coded message. And now you tell me, how should I have responded? I mean, anyone, if they had got a message like that, Prime Minister of a country gets a message, an official meeting taking place between the Under Secretary of State, US, and the Pakistan ambassador in Washington. And the message reads, here's the Prime Minister reading the message, that unless the Prime Minister, Imran Khan, is removed in a vote of no confidence, there'll be consequences for Pakistan. There were other things in the cipher. But I mean, imagine a Prime Minister of a country, elected Prime Minister of a country, reads this message that an American official is telling my ambassador that Pakistan should get rid of me. Otherwise, there'll be consequences. So I took this to the cabinet because I thought this was deeply insulting. For a country of 250 million people, I thought it was humiliating for anyone to write, any official from any country writing a letter like that, or sending a message like that to the Prime Minister, elected Prime Minister. Then I put it in front of the National Security Council. The National Security Council, which is headed by all the service chiefs, including the Army Chief. The National Security Council then gives a démarche to the US, protest that this is meddling in the internal affairs of Pakistan. But what happened was that after the cipher, the next day the vote of confidence is tabled in the National Assembly. And within weeks, my government goes. So I basically narrated the fact this is not anti-Americanism. This is a fact. After my government goes, the government of Shahbaz Sharif, who was part of this conspiracy, they then hold a National Security Council meeting. They call the ambassador from the US, Asad Majid, and they ask him, were the contents in the cipher true? Does he stand by them? And he stood by them. He said, this is exactly what happened.
So he stood by them and said it's exactly what happened. And so, again, this was Imran Khan talking to the Atlantic Council in June of 2023. And because he talked about it, what happened to him? Well, like I said earlier, they charged him with releasing state secrets or something like that. What is it exactly? They charged him with leaking state secrets and gave him a 10-year prison sentence. And they actually gave a similar sentence to the foreign minister. So 10 years for leaking state secrets, where he's talking about the United States meddling in Pakistani affairs and threatening Pakistan with consequences if Pakistan does not get rid of him. But it gets worse for Khan, because right after this, he was given a 14-year prison sentence. Not just him, but also his wife, relating to state gifts again. So a 3-year sentence, a 10-year sentence, and a 14-year sentence for Imran Khan, all going back to when he met with Vladimir Putin in February of 2022. Now, I talked about earlier the United States meddling in other people's affairs, but us saying that we support democracy and freedom and fair elections. Well, in August of 2023, Victoria Nuland, the infamous Victoria Nuland, who's been in charge of Ukraine policy in the State Department since 2014, spoke with the Pakistanis about fair elections, right? Fair elections, haha. Senior U.S. diplomat Victoria Nuland spoke on Tuesday with Pakistani Foreign Minister Jalil Abbas Jalani and discussed the importance of timely, free, and fair elections in the South Asian nation, the U.S. State Department said. Acting Deputy Secretary Nuland and Foreign Minister Jalani discussed the importance of timely, free, and fair elections in a manner consistent with Pakistan's laws and constitution, the U.S. State Department said in a statement. Pakistani politics has been in crisis for over a year, with former Prime Minister Imran Khan, who was ousted in a parliamentary vote of no confidence last year, being at the center of it. Khan blamed the United States and Pakistan's military for his ousting. Both Washington and the military have denied his claims. The State Department, on the call between Nuland and Jalani, made no mention of Khan. So the United States, we're all about fair and free elections, democracy. Yet we were meddling in Pakistan's democracy. We got their prime minister ousted. Now, of course, there were elements within Pakistan who also wanted him gone, so it wasn't just us, but clearly we played a role. And again, it's so insulting because after we do all this, Nuland goes and starts talking about us wanting them to have free and fair elections, but never mentions Khan, who we helped to get removed. So, United States, we are absolutely hypocritical in our own meddling. And when it comes to countries that we're in conflict with, Russia, for example, we will immediately blame them or accuse them of being undemocratic and having unfair prosecution. So in Russia, there's a guy, Alexei Navalny, who has been convicted of several things in Russia. He's an opponent of Vladimir Putin, and he's been jailed. And in response to this, the U.S. State Department said this: the United States condemns a Russian court's further sentencing and conviction of opposition politician and anti-corruption campaigner Alexei Navalny to an additional 19 years in prison on unfounded charges of so-called extremism. This is an unjust conclusion to an unjust trial. For years, the Kremlin has attempted to silence Navalny and prevent his calls for transparency and accountability from reaching the Russian people by conducting this latest trial in secret and limiting his lawyers' access to purported evidence. Russian authorities illustrated yet again both the baselessness of their case and the lack of due process afforded to those who dare criticize the regime. How cute. The United States claims to care about due process and fairness while we help to crush Imran Khan. And in our own country, we have the front runner for the Republicans under 91 indictments, criminal cases in 4 different states, several civil cases. They've actually changed laws just to file charges against him. We've had judges being absolutely corrupt in how they treat Trump. They've put on gag orders. He had a $83 million case against him in New York. That was a defamation case where they awarded some nut job this money because they claimed, or she claimed that he defamed her by saying out loud that I did not abuse this woman. We have another case where they claim he overvalued his properties, and then the judge actually valued his properties at hundreds of millions of dollars less than it's actually worth. We've seen the most insane corruption and lack of real due process here in the United States with Trump. Yet we're going to criticize the Russians for their behavior, and that's when you realize there is no. Hate to say this, there's no good or bad guys. There's just power and what you can get away with. In the United States, we don't act off of ethical or moral principles. We are a superpower looking to maintain our status in a world that is rapidly changing and becoming multipolar. And as that change happens, we're getting more frantic in trying to hold on to power. And we'll do anything. We'll lie, cheat, and steal. We'll crush other countries. We'll overthrow governments. We'll get people removed. We will fund terrorists or opposition forces in certain countries if they're fighting a government we don't like. We have no real moral, ethical standards, especially concerning our foreign policy. In the last 30 years have shown that, and perhaps we can go back even further, looking at U.S. foreign policy and how destructive it's been and not based in truth or any real attempt to spread real freedom across the world. What we're trying to spread is U.S. power and the tentacles, our U.S. tentacles across the world, to turn countries into puppets of the United States. And countries that do not cooperate, they go on our bleep list, and we look to undermine them. And the ones that do, well, they're okay, and we help them because they're doing what we say. So that is the truth of the matter. And unfortunately for Imran Khan, boy, he's getting a raw deal. I hope there's some sort of appeals process where he can get out of jail. I don't know. It's Pakistan. But what they did to him there, they are trying to do to Trump here. And they will do that to anybody who goes against the deep state. And when it comes to challenging the deep state on foreign policy, that is a place you don't go. If you go there, you're going to get crushed. And Khan's mistake, again, foreign policy, Russia, Putin, he got on the wrong side of that, and they crushed him for it. So pretty messed up, but that is the world we live in. Well, that is it for now. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.